do today is to help you appreciate that dogs can quite often be misunderstood, and also you have a massive impact on the interaction that you have with a dog and whether you avoid one or a dog comes up to you. So what is the dog telling you and what are you telling the dog? That dog is telling me that if I move any closer it's going to disappear into the hedge. Quite often, as James was saying, we build up these images of the fact that every dog that we see out in the park or the beach is going to come running up to us and jump on us and create chaos. But quite often, dogs will do what they can to avoid interacting with people. Okay. From an animal welfare point of view, many dogs are rehomed or euthanized following aggressive incidents with people or other animals, and these aggressive incidents could be avoided, specifically the ones with people, because quite often they're initiated by the human being on the other end of the lead or in the park. The behaviour you display when you're out, the dogs are communicating all the time, and if they see you, the behaviour you display can actually, it triggers the response from the dog. So James was saying when you're frightened of something, you look at it and you don't take your eyes off it, because if you do, it might come and get you without you noticing. That's the worst thing you can do really with a dog, because you're just staring at it and it doesn't know what to do either. So I want to help you to understand that you have such an important role in the outcome of an interaction with a dog, and also in how to avoid the dogs rushing up at you. It's very difficult in Guernsey because we've got an unbelievably high concentration of dogs in a small area where everyone has to share the same recreational ground. The beaches, the parks, so it's unavoidable. So I can appreciate that it can be quite difficult to go anywhere with your children without the risk in your mind of dogs coming running up at you. And there are owners, unfortunately, that just think that they're friendly dogs, it'll be fine, not realising actually that the person that the dog's running up to is really quite terrified. So, okay. So yes, dogs are noisy, we know that, but they're also visual communicators. So when a dog comes into the room, or we see one today perhaps, it's going to be communicating with you all the time. It's just that if you're a bit anxious about it or not, you may not be able to recognise or see the signals that it's giving you. And the dog will be telling you that it's happy for you to come and say hi, or that it actually is a bit nervous of people, so it'd rather you didn't. So I'd like to help you to understand some of the things to look for when you meet a dog, so that you don't put yourself and the dog under pressure and in a situation that isn't going to end quite well. Most dogs aren't aggressive. We've got a culture now that the press have demonised dogs. They're in the paper. If there's a bad story, it's all over the newspapers. There are some tragic stories, but if you think about the amount of dogs that are, millions and millions of dogs that are owned by people, they are safe animals to have. Also, I mean, I do dog training. There are lots of dog trainers, and we've sort of created a problem for ourselves by fixing problems that maybe we didn't recognise years ago. So we all think that dogs have problems that need to be fixed, and we need to keep on top of them, otherwise they're going to run out of control. So again, you guys, if you've got a slight anxiety, you might think, oh, dogs are bad. I need to tell the dog what to do. It needs to be under control, otherwise it's just going to run amok and bite everybody. So we're not helping dogs to do we don't want them to do: chasing, barking, jumping up, chewing, digging and things like that. They're things that human beings would rather they not do. Barking being one of them, because obviously barking may trigger some anxieties in you guys. And quite often, as you'll probably see today, if a dog comes into the room and it's walking up there and there's 45 faces staring at the dog, imagine if the shoe was on the other foot, the dog's going to feel a bit worried. So that's why we've got the handlers, to just make sure that the dogs are quite safe and not too anxious. Okay. So just a little bit about body language, because it would be silly not to put some in. This is a nice, relaxed dog, just looking, surveying the scenery. You know, I'm sure you probably all recognise body language instinctively, but you can see this dog's nice and calm. This dog's seen something that it quite likes, or maybe it doesn't like, but this is an alert dog. Some people will say, oh, that dog looks quite bold and dominant and everything else, but it's just seen something. So this is sort of the point at which it's alerted to something, and then we're going to see what it wants to do about it. So the next slide. So whatever it's alerted to, it'd rather not have seen. So it might be a car, or it might be the cats if you've got a rather nasty cat at home. And again, James, please. And this is a dog that already you can see is trying to back away and would rather the ground open up underneath its feet and it be sucked away. So when you're seeing dogs like this, quite often dogs that look a bit frightened, we can't help but go. So when you're seeing dogs like this, quite often dogs that look a bit frightened, we can't help but go and, it's like a nurturing instinct, to go in and say, oh, it's okay, it's going to be okay. But this is, if a dog's doing this gesture, it means I'm really scared, please don't add any more pressure to how I'm feeling at the moment. Can you just back away, okay, and let the dog leave the situation, run away from the mammoth rather than have to face another scary situation. Okay. Quite often what dogs do can be misunderstood. Teeth, dogs showing teeth. Now this dog is grimacing. Dogs don't like having their pictures taken. There's a great big black eye looking at them and it can make them quite nervous. So if you've ever tried taking photos of dogs, which I guess you probably haven't, you usually end up with a face, the side of the face, a bottom. You might quite often get this, but this dog is sort of saying, I don't want my picture taken. It's an appeasement gesture. When dogs are communicating with you, they're constantly giving you low-level signals that I'm not comfortable. So, for example, they lick their lips a lot, like we all do it. Animals all do it. They might lick their lips a lot. They'll turn away. You know, if somebody's upset you, you sort of turn away just to calm yourself down from the situation. Closing eyes, and this dog sort of learnt that if it shuts its eyes, and we would call this a smile, the camera's going to go away eventually. Okay. Similarly with this, same thing. The camera's pointing at me, and this is by no means aggressive. This is just appeasement. I don't like having my picture taken, and this is the dog's strategy. Close my eyes, grimace, and the picture's taken. Okay. Anxious dog. So, you know, this dog looks quite comfortable. If any of you own cats, you might have cats that look like they're pretending to be asleep, but they're not. So this dog's pretending to be comfortable, but you can tell that it's quite uncomfortable. So if a human was to go up and sit by it and give it cuddles, oh, it might be fine, but you need to be aware that they don't all want cuddles and they don't all want a direct interaction with you. They'd rather actually just avoid it. Okay. If you weren't to pick up the signal of a dog that was hiding its head in the sofa, then that's a real shame. Why would you want to pull the dog out the sofa? You may want to make it feel better, but I think it just wants to be sucked into the hole there in the sofa. The important thing is, no, that's okay. The important thing is that all of the time, all of these pictures, whether you recognise it or not, these dogs are communicating to the person that took them. This is a classic yawn, which in context dogs get tired, but they also yawn when they're anxious and they've got adrenaline running, as we all do it as well. If you need to speak in front of people or you've got a driving test, you yawn a lot and you go to the toilet and all things like that. Dogs do the same. So you go to the next slide, James. So this dog is yawning, and this dog is saying to me, okay, there's a person coming. I'm a bit worried about that. I'm going to look away. Maybe they won't see me if I don't see them. We'll point all of these out today. If you're wanting to take part in the actual real dog bit, we'll show you that the dogs are all doing this. And it's important that you see these so that you know to back off, because when you're frightened of something, and I know I've got a fear, I just want to get it over and done with, and it's like a challenge. Quick, run at it, get it and run off, which is totally the wrong thing to do. Okay. Hackle raising. Some dogs obviously have a natural brush on their back, but if a dog's in your company, it's raising its hackles, don't let your imagination think that it's gonna eat me. Hackles are just like the hairs on the back of your neck. It's adrenaline, it's stimulation, excitement, and arousal. It might even be that dog's just about to peg it this way because it doesn't like the Westie over there. It's not that this dog is going to go in and be aggressive. Okay. This dog is nervous. Can everyone see that dog's a little bit worried, and it would rather you not go and interact with it. Again, the hackles are raised, but it wants to escape. So if you were to go up to that dog and try and make friends, which we all have a compulsion to do, which is something you need to try and control, is the need to think, I've got to get over this, I'm going to go and make friends. Just consider what the dog's saying to you at the time. So I would let that dog go off, personally. Off you go, see you later. Okay. And again, these are just very clear. I think when you start looking at dogs, you realise that they are just communicating. They don't have any other means of communication with you apart from their body language. So it's important, it will help you if you can pick up on small things that they're doing, and then you'll know how to react accordingly. Okay. It was just alright, it was just some smiley dogs, James. Just some smiley ones. Okay. So today when we bring the dogs in, there's going to be a way of approaching them and not. And as I was saying, when you have a fear of something, sometimes you dare yourself to go directly at it and get it over and done with. When you're greeting dogs, that's quite an aggressive approach. If I came up to you and I didn't know you, and I just come up to you and grabbed your hair and scruffed your cheeks, you're likely to either bop me on the nose or just be so frightened that you can't cope. Why? It's no different for a dog, okay? So you don't, well, that's what you do. We'll go with the don'ts first. Don't rush up to dogs and don't surprise them. If we're handling a dog today and you're sort of thinking, right, I really want to touch it, ask us. Don't go sort of behind and then stroke the dog's bottom, because when it swings round as if to say, what's just got my bum? It's going to make you jump, and it's not, that won't be positive. So it's important that you speak to us, and when you're out and about, don't make large sudden movements that might startle the dog. Try not to stare at it. I know that you might be a bit scared, but think about something else. Look at the clouds, look at the car, pretend to look at your watch. Do something else to break your contact with what you're frightened with, because you may trigger a response from a frightened dog. Patting on the head is something that we do quite a lot, and I don't know why, but actually when you go to pat a dog on the head, it looks up and its teeth follow your hand and then you pull away. So actually if you go underneath and tickle its chin, which is what we'll show those of you that want to do that today, you don't get that feeling of your hand being pursued by a set of teeth, because the dog's sort of looking to see what you're doing. And if you're frightened, don't run away. As much as your instincts are going to tell you to run away, in this case, you just don't do it, because the dog will think, whoa, this is a good game, and follow, okay? So what you do, well, you need to approach as you would if you were meeting a stranger. If you're meeting someone else's granny, you're not going to go up and be full on and introduce yourself and scruff her cheeks and think that she's cute. You're going to be polite and perhaps sidle up to her and be nice and gentle and good-mannered and shake her hand and introduce yourself. Somebody might introduce you to Nana because she's someone's Nana, and you need to just be a bit more considerate when you're meeting dogs. And if you're uncomfortable and you happen to accidentally meet a dog and you'd rather not, just stand still and think about something that is, try and think about something that is a pleasure, so that you don't trigger off your heart pounding, your pulse racing and all of those triggers. Think of a song that you quite like or a holiday you went on. Just let the dog sniff you and then they will leave you alone. Okay? Right, James. Okay, so just to go through some illustrations. This is a bad human, and if this was me, if I was the dog, I would be most put out by that greeting. But we all do it quite a lot. We probably don't even think about it. It's the natural greeting that we've got for dogs. You know, staring straight into somebody's face with both hands, what outcome are you going to expect from that? Hopefully the dog is just going to be so shocked that it doesn't do anything. So, okay. This is a greeting. This is what to do. This is what I've taught my 2- and 5-year-old sons to do. If we're on the beach and some friendly dogs come bounding up, they both know to stand still and just clench fists, and the dogs sniff and then they'll go away. They've both very quickly learnt that if you run, the dogs are following you. So it did take some time, but they do now both stand like statues and offer their fists out and just look at the sky. Loo, 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 loo. So